Hello, everybody. Get ready for an intense story full of twists. Didi and Isabel's marriage was one of the most awaited events by high society, attracting influential figures and celebrities. But behind the brightness and glamour, the mood between the couple was more tense than many could imagine. It was as if a silent storm was about to graduate. In the center of the hall, Isabel stood out in her stunning white dress. But despite her smile, her eyes revealed her restlessness. With every curious look of the guests, she felt the discomfort grow. Beside his side, Didi displayed a flawless smoke and an expression that did not transmit a minimal tenderness. Anna, her best friend, realized the restlessness and approached discreetly. "Isabel, are you okay? Did he do something with you?" he whispered with concern. "It's okay, Anna," said Isabel, but the slight hesitation in her voice suggested the opposite. It changes when things don't go as he wants." "How does it change?" Anna asked, narrowing her eyes with suspicion. Before Isabel could answer, Didi turned abruptly. "The bride should not take her eyes off the groom on the most important day of her life, my love." The tone seemed affectionate, but the look was a clear warning. Anna retreated, realizing that she was not welcome there. She knew that Didi didn't like her closeness to Isabel, but she wouldn't leave her friend in such a delicate moment. The party followed with a soft soundtrack and expensive wines being served. Isabel tried to relax and interact with the guests, but the discomfort didn't leave her. The feeling that it was far from everyone increased. Around the conversation seemed superficial and the smiles forced, until Dom Joaquim, an elderly guest, commented aloud, drawing everyone's attention. "Isabel, wasn't you involved with the musician? I think his name was Miguel, wasn't it?" A sharp silence settled in the hall. Didi, who held a glass of wine, paralyzed. Slowly, he turned to Isabel with a look at anger. "What, Miguel?" he asked with a shade of veiled threat. Isabel hesitated, surprised by the question. "It is something of the past. My love, it doesn't matter anymore." "No matter anymore," Didi growled, interrupting the air. "So why do you still talk about it?" The whispers began to spread among the guests. Didi put the cup on the table tightly, the sound resonating through the hall. "You may have forgotten, Isabel. Now you are my wife," he said with a voice rising. "I do not accept betrayal, not even in memories." Isabel retreated, feeling trapped. "I didn't do anything wrong. Please listen to me." Didi laughed cold and sarcastically. "Listen to you. Do you think I'm naive enough to believe in cheap excuses?" Anna, observing closely, tried to intervene. "Didi, this is neither the time nor the place for it. Let's calm down. This is not your account, Anna." Didi fired, the fixed gaze in her. "You should learn to be silent." Isabel poured a supplication look at Anna. But the moment Anna tried to answer, the unthinkable happened. Without warning, Didi raised his hand and slapped Isabel, the sound echoing through the hall. Isabel staggered, bringing her hand to her face as tears dripped down her cheeks. The hall plunged into deadly silence. Horrified guests looked away. Others whispered with each other, but no one intervened. Some left the place, unable to support what they had witnessed. Didi remained motionless, without showing regret. "Maybe now you learn to respect your place," he said indifferently. Isabel couldn't answer. His tears were silent but intense. Anna quickly approached, pulling Isabel away from the curious eyes. But Isabel could barely walk, shaken and fragile. Dona Maria, Didi's mother, also approached, but her words were not supported. "A wife needs to know how to behave, Isabel. You tease this." Dona Maria looked at Isabel with coldness, as if her words were an unappealable verdict. A wife must know how to do her duty. Those words were the drop of water. Isabel felt as if an abyss opened under his feet. She was completely alone. The only person who still remained by his side was Anna. But no matter how much Anna tried to comfort her, humiliation and pain seemed unbearable. While the party was still under a dense and suffocating atmosphere, Isabel could barely breathe. Each laugh, each toast seemed a mockery to its silent suffering. She walked away, seeking refuge in an isolated corner of the hall, sitting on a bench near the wall. Her eyes, red and teary, settled on the floor. The face still carried the tapa mark. The bright lights of the crystal chandelier danced on the ceiling, but for Isabel they seemed just a cruel memory of their fragility in that luxurious but merciless world. The laughter and conversations echoed in the distance, but everything seemed distant, as if he came from a reality that no longer belonged to him. Anna, seeing her friend in that situation, knelt beside her, holding her hand gently. "Isabel, listen to me. You can't let this go on. You need to get out of here now." Anna's voice was low but urgently. Isabel shook her head, trying to control the tears that still insisted on falling. "You don't understand, Anna. I can't. I have nowhere to go. My family bet everything on this marriage. If I leave, I will disappoint them." Anna squeezed Isabel's hand even more, trying to bring her back to reality. "Your family wants you to be happy, Isabel. They don't want to see you being mistreated. Diddy don't love you. He wants to control you. Think of you, please." Before Isabel could answer, Diddy approached. His presence, like a shadow, made Isabel shine himself instinctively. He had a hard look, like a sharp blade about to cut. "What do you think you're doing?" His voice was low, but each word carried a threat. "Are you crying in front of the guests to embarrass me?" Anna stood up suddenly, placing herself between Isabel and Diddy. "She did nothing wrong. Diddy, who should be ashamed you for what you have just done." Diddy looked at Anna with contempt. Her eyes ran down Isabel's friend from above, as if she was just an insignificant discomfort. "This subject is between me and my wife. You better get away. This is your last warning." Isabel held Anna's hand, pulling her slightly backwards, afraid that the situation would get worse. She looked at Diddy with a pleading look. "Please don't do that anymore. Let's forget that. Do you think an apology is enough?" He leaned slightly toward Isabel, his voice almost a threatening whispering. "Never forget, Isabel. You are my wife. You will learn to obey one way or another." Donna Maria, watching from afar, walked slowly toward the couple. His presence only increased the tension in the environment. "What is happening here?" he asked with the tone of those who already predicted the answer. Diddy turned to Mother without showing any emotion. "Nothing else. Isabel just needs to understand some things." Donna Maria looked straight at Isabel, her severe and relentless eyes. "Isabel, you need to learn that in this family, honor comes first. Inadequate behaviors will not be tolerated. As a wife, your duty is to maintain your posture and follow your husband's wishes." Those words were like a blow to your soul. Isabel lowered her head, feeling even more imprisoned by invisible currents of control and oppression. "Are you justifying what your son did? No woman deserves to be treated like this." Donna Maria turned slowly to Anna, with a look loaded with contempt. "Should you know your place, Anna? This is not a subject that concerns you." Isabel pulled Anna's hand again, whispering urgently, "Please don't say anything else. This will only get worse." Anna looked at Isabel, her eyes full of sadness, but respected her friend's request and remained silent. Diddy cast a last free look at Isabel before he walked away. "I hope this is not repeated." Isabel remained sitting, feeling the weight of all looks at him. Even those who tried to disguise curiosity could not hide the trial and the penalty. Miguel, the young waiter, discreetly watched across the hall. His gaze was full of empathy. With a subtle gesture, he approached and handed Isabel a scarf of paper. "Do you need any help?" he asked in a low voice, enough for only Isabel to hear. Isabel looked up at Miguel, but couldn't answer. His kindness made her feel even more humiliated. Her own weakness seemed to scream in her chest, as if she said she didn't deserve compassion. Anna pulled Isabel gently to a farther corner, where no one could hear them. "You can't continue that way. They will destroy you little by little." Isabel lowered her head. Anna's words echoed as hard but inevitable truths. "I know," whispered Isabel with a shaky voice, "but I'm not strong enough, Anna. I don't know what to do." Anna held her friend's shoulders firmly, her eyes shining with determination. "You don't have to be strong alone. I'm here with you, but you need to make a decision. Isabel, this life is not for you." Isabel's eyes filled with tears, while Anna's words seemed to illuminate a small crack in the darkness around her. Still, the invisible ties they learned, family pressure and fear, weighed too much to allow her to step ahead. Suddenly, Donna Maria approached again. This time, his face brought a forced expression of tenderness. "Isabel, adjust your dress and go back to the party." Do not let small setbacks make up our family's reputation. Her voice was sweet on the outside, but sharp like a hidden blade. Show yourself worthy of your position. Isabel was still, squeezing her hands on each other. Her heart was beating out. She didn't know if she should keep enduring or should escape that nightmare. Slowly, Isabel crossed the main hall, feeling every step weigh tons. The crystal chandeliers still shone intensely, as if they mocked their pain. The sound of the guests, now in whispers, echoed around him, but no one intervened. It was as if everyone were conformed, treating Isabel's humiliation as part of the show. On the other side of the hall, Dona Maria was surrounded by her intimate friends, Dona Elisa and Dona Carmen, women of the high society who delighted with gossip disguised as advice. "This Isabel is so fragile," said Dona Elisa in a tone that, although low, was perfectly audible to Isabel. "I can't believe Didi chose such a girl to get married." Dona Carmen, with a cynical smile, answered, "She is beautiful. Perhaps that was the only reason." Dona Maria, at the center of the group, gave a superior look. "Don't worry, my son will teach her to be a real wife. Women like Isabel need instruction. If not guided, they do not know how to behave." Each word dug deep into Isabel's heart. She stood there trying to contain the tears. But unlike before, none of them fell. The shock seemed to have drained all his strength. Anna, realizing her friend's state, ran to her and pulled her to a more discreet corner. "Isabel, you can't allow this to continue," Anna said, the indignation overflowing in your voice. "They don't have the right to treat you like that." Isabel lowered her head, responding in an almost inaudible whisper. "I don't know what to do, Anna. I feel like it's stuck, with no way out." It was then that Didi appeared on the other side of the hall. He was talking to a group of entrepreneurs, but his eyes were fixed in Isabel. Didi smiled coldly. Her gaze devoured her, like a predator who plays with her prey. He began to walk slowly toward Isabel and Anna. Anna noted her approach and placed himself between him and Isabel, determined to protect her. "You should leave," Didi said without hesitation. "This is a family party, not a place to solve personal issues." Didi stopped. His expression remained impassive, but there was a brightness of arrogance in his eyes. "Personal affairs?" he said, leaning his head slightly. "Isabel is my wife. I do what I think needed." Anna crossed her arms, facing Didi without looking away. "Do you really think what you did here in front of everyone is acceptable?" "Didi, you hit her." He shrugged as if that was not important. "Isabel needs to learn. It is a lesson she should have learned for a long time." Anna took a step forward, the voice loaded with indignation. "And you, Didi, ever wondered if you have the right to treat it like that? She is your wife, not your property." Didi ignored Anna and turned to Isabel. He leaned slightly, approaching her face and speaking in a low, soft, but controlled voice. "My love, you know I'm right." Isabel just looked down, unable to answer. "Isabel, go to the bedroom, change clothes, and go back to the party. Everyone is waiting for us," said Didi, with calm but firm tone, as if he gave an order disguised as a suggestion. Isabel's gaze was empty, with no resistance spar. Anna, next to her, held her hand firmly, trying to pull her. "Let's go from here, Isabel. You don't have to go through this." Anna spoke softly but with despair in the voice. Isabel shook her head slightly, with tears sprouting again in her eyes. "I can't, Anna," muttered Isabel, her voice embargoed. "If I leave, I will embarrass my family." "Anna has dragged her eyes, taken by frustration," exclaimed Anna, unable to contain her revolt. "Isabel, what really brings us shame is to allow Didi and his mother to continue controlling you." The discussion attracted the attention of some nearby guests, but no one had the courage to approach or intervene. Didi noticed the looks around. With the coldness that was characteristic of him, he changed his posture immediately. He put his hand on Isabel's shoulder, pretending to comfort her, but her touch was calculated and distant. "It's okay, my love," Didi said with a sweet but artificial voice. "Let's not create more confusion. Just do what I'm asking, okay?" Isabel felt weakly, like a puppet. His body obeyed even before his mind soothed. Anna, furious and on the edge of tears, looked at Isabel with despair. Across the salon, Miguel, the young waiter, watched the scene as he held a tray of drinks. He watched Isabel with a look loaded with compassion, but knew he couldn't do much. His gaze followed Isabel as if, somehow, he wanted to give him a little hope. Didi led Isabel back to the center of the hall, where the guests resumed their forced conversations. He took a glass of wine and put it on her hand, with a smile that hid a threat tone. "Smile," Isabel whispered Didi in her ear, "if you don't want to embarrass me again." Isabel tried to smile, but the result was a crooked, empty, painful smile. She felt sinking into an endless abyss, where any resistance seemed useless. The surrounding eyes watched her, but no one dared to do anything. In that world, Isabel was completely alone. The party continued, but the tension between Isabel and Didi hovered like a dense, invisible but suffocating cloud. Didi continued to smile, talking to the important guests, while Isabel remained by her side as a decorative piece. His eyes, though dry on the outside, were full of invisible tears inside. Miguel, with the tray in his hands, discreetly approached Ana. "Madam," he whispered with caution, "I know it's not my account, but she is fine." Ana looked at Miguel, her red and teary eyes. "No, she's not fine," Ana replied, her voice embargoed, "but I don't know what to do to help her now." Miguel hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "If you need, I can help take her out of here. I know a path from the back. No one will see." Ana looked surprised at Miguel. The young waiter's courage played her, but she just shook her head. "Thank you, Miguel, but she's not ready. Isabel is trapped by fear." Miguel felt her, lowering her look sadly. He knew that sometimes people need to find strength for themselves to leave the hell they are in. On the other side of the hall, Donna Maria watched everything. Surrounded by a group of guests, his eyes did not deviate from Isabel. The matriarch did not care about the suffering of the daughter. In law, only the image of the family before the high society. Donna Maria started walking slowly to Isabel, the high heels echoing in the cold marble, marking her authoritarian presence. "Isabel, come with me." Her voice sounded more like an order than a request. Isabel looked at Didi as if she asked helps with her eyes, but he just felt her, indicating that she should obey. Without choice, Isabel followed her mother-in-law to a dark corridor where the light of the chandeliers could not dissipate the cold in Mary's voice. "You need to understand, Isabel. Being in this family is a privilege," said Maria with a tone of superiority. "Didi chose you, and you must honor this choice, behaving as expected of a wife. You should be grateful for that." Donna Maria's voice cut the air like a sharp blade. "But if you don't behave as you should, there will be no place for you in this family." Isabel lowered her head, her mother-in-law's words echoing in her mind like a heavy burden. She didn't know what to answer. Pain and fear looked like a knot in his throat, preventing any reaction. "I will not allow anyone to destroy the reputation of this family," Mary continued with a penetrating look. "If you want to live in peace, you must learn to obey. Did you understand?" Isabel's eyes lifted slowly, staring at Mary with a mix of contained anger and resignation. But even with her heart screaming, she found no strength to react. He just felt it with an almost imperceptible nod. Back in the hall, Isabel saw Didi talking to a group of important guests, including Dom Joaquim and Dona Elisa. When Isabel entered the environment again, all the eyes turned to her. He felt like a puppet, manipulated by invisible strings. No voice, without freedom. Ana, who will remain close, approached again. This time his posture was firmer, determined. "Isabel, enough." Ana held Isabel's arm, staring at her seriously. "You can't keep living like this. I will take you out of here." "No, Ana," whispered Isabel, trying to keep her calm, but her eyes full of tears. "I can't. If I leave now, everything collapses." Ana widened her eyes, outraged. "Collapse?" Ana did not contain the high tone. "What will collapse? Isabel, you, or the Didi's family. They don't care about you. They are concerned only with themselves." Before Isabel could answer, Didi approached, her expression hard as stone. "Ana, I think you should get out of here immediately. Irakatante afodsdil, Zika." And he ordered, his voice low, but loaded with authority. Isabel looked at Ana with tears about to fall. With every step he took, he felt like he was sinking into an endless whirlwind. From afar, Miguel, the young waiter, watched the scene. He had no power to change the situation, but the determination in his gaze indicated that he would somehow find a way to help Isabel, no matter the cost. Isabel returned to the center of the hall. But for her, everything had already changed. The conversations were now lower, the most intense looks. There were no relaxed smiles, just whispers and stealth expressions. Isabel was isolated, alone in a crowd. Didi remained by her side, holding her hand firmly, as a constant reminder that she should not get out of place. "Smile, Isabel." Didi's voice sounded soft, but there was a clear threat behind the words. "You don't want to embarrass me again in front of the guests, right?" Isabel tried to smile, but the smile was distorted, unable to hide the tremor in her eyes. On the other side of the hall, Anna watched Senna, with her hands sawn in fists. She knew Isabel was trapped by fear, but how to get her out of there, if she even believed her there was a way out? Donna Maria approached, her cold and calculating look. She traveled Isabel from above and then turned to Didi with a slight smile of sarcasm. "This girl still needs a lot of training." "Didi," said Maria with an acid tone. She didn't understand her role. Didi felt her with a disconcerting calm. "You should hear my mother, Isabel." His voice sounded like a dangerous caress. "She is always right." Isabel lowered her head. Inside her was a silent scream, but she didn't dare release him. I feared that any sign of resistance had even worse consequences. It was at this moment that Anna could no longer contain herself. She stood up abruptly and walked toward Isabel, positioning herself between her and Didi. "Enough, Didi!" exclaimed Anna, with a trembling voice but determined. "Didi, don't you realize that Isabel has suffered enough?" Anna's voice sounded firm, cutting the heavy air of the hall. Didi smiled sideways, but his gaze carried contempt. "Anna, you don't have the right to talk to me like that. This is a family subject. It doesn't concern you." Anna narrowed her eyes, keeping the tone decided. "Don't you concern me?" she countered her, with anger contained. "Isabel is my best friend, and I will not allow you to keep destroying her life." Didi stepped forward, his face leaning slightly toward Anna's. Her voice came out low, but each word carried a silent threat. "Do you better get out of here before I lose patience?" Isabel, scared, held Anna's arm, trying to push her away. "No, Anna, please don't make things worse," in the end begged. Anna looked at Isabel, feeling her heart tight. She wanted to fight for her friend, but she knew Isabel was dominated by fear. Any false step could make the situation worse. Across the hall, Miguel, the young waiter, watched the scene from afar. His eyes, full of empathy, reflected anguish for not being able to do anything. Even wanting to act, I knew that at that moment, any interference would be useless. The soft music kept playing, but for Isabel, it was just a distant noise. Unimportant. She was alone, stuck. The weight of Didi and his mother's control was an invisible but overwhelming chain. It was then that Dom Joaquim, one of the most respected guests in the business world, discreetly approached Didi. He was an old family friend and knew how to choose the right words, but that night his tone carried a certain discomfort. He put his hand on Didi's shoulder, and in a serious voice he said, "Maybe you should let Isabel rest. The girl doesn't seem to be well." Didi turned to Joaquim, his gaze becoming cold. "Thanks for the advice," he replied without emotion. "But this is a subject of mine." Joaquim frowned but did not insist. He knew that Didi was the kind of man who did not change his mind easily. Isabel looked at Dom Joaquim with silent gratitude, but she knew that kind words were not enough to free her from that situation. She felt like a small drift boat in the middle of a storm, without direction or control. Donna Maria, who watched from afar, saw the brief moment of interference and did not like. With a slight gesture, he called one of the waiters to serve more wine to guests, a subtle attempt to divert attention and keep appearances intact. Isabel wanted to disappear, but in that family there was no room for weakness. "Come with me." Maria's cold voice cut the atmosphere. Without an option, Isabel followed her mother-in-law to the porch. The moonlight shone cold and distant, illuminating his bride's shitted face. "In this house, Isabel, there is no room for failures." Mary's voice was firm, full of authority. "If you do not learn to fulfill your role, it will not last long here." Isabel lowered her head, absorbing each word like an impossible burden to carry. In the hall, Didi was talking and smiling with the guests as if nothing had happened. The man who had humiliated his wife moments ago now seemed the perfect host. It was all a facade, false smiles, rehearsed words. Isabel returned to the hall, but her gaze was empty. She was exhausted, as if every minute drained a little more of her energy. He sat in a discreet corner, away from his eyes. The glow of the chandelier seemed to mock her, and the laughter of the guests echoed as a cruel reminder of their helplessness. "I can't see this anymore." Anna held her hand firmly. "Isabel, you need to get out of here. They don't deserve to go through this." Isabel raised her face, silent tears dripping. "I want to leave, Anna," she whispered, "but I don't know how. Didi and Donna Maria will not leave me alone." Anna sat next to her friend, squeezing her hand even more. "Isabel, you are not alone. I am here. I will protect you. Let's find a way out. But if I leave, my family will suffer. I will disappoint them." Isabel's voice barely passed a whisper. Anna looked deep into Isabel's eyes, her expression full of conviction. "Your family will understand. The most important thing now is you. You can't let them end your life." And for the first time that night, Isabel felt a small spark of hope. As soon as Didi approached, his imposing posture made the environment seem even more suffocating. Her gaze, cold like a blade, settled in Anna, as if she wanted to push her away with the strength of her presence. "Anna, how many times do I say?" Didi's voice sounded like muffled thunder. "This is a subject of my family. You don't have the right to intrude." Anna got up slowly, but her expression did not show a shred of fear. "Family subject," he countered, staring at Didi from the head. "Do you think violence is a family subject? Do you think I have the right to hurt Isabel just because she is your wife?" Didi sketched a cynical smile. Slowly, he looked away from Anna and turned to Isabel, who remained sitting with her eyes fixed on the floor. "What did you say to her, Isabel? Are you trying to embarrass me in front of everyone?" "No tiene, Didi," Isabel replied, the trembling and unsuccessful voice. "I said nothing. I was just sitting here." Didi leaned, bringing his face closer to hers. His voice was now low, but each word carried a silent threat. "You have already made me embarrassed enough. Get up, adjust your dress and go back to the party." Now Isabel's heart accelerated. She felt the knot in her throat tighten. "I don't want to hear excuses." Didi's voice was sharp. Before Isabel could react, Anna advanced, interrupting firmly. "You do not have the right to oblige it like this, Didi. She is not her property." Didi turned slowly to Anna with an intense look, almost burning in a contained fury. "Do you really think you can change something? Isabel is my wife. It belongs to me. I decide what she does." Isabel, shaking, held Anna's arm, trying to push her away. "Anna, please," whispered Isabel, begging, her eyes full of tears. "Enough! Don't get worse!" Anna looked at Isabel, her heart broken. She wanted to fight, but I knew that at that moment Isabel was stuck in a web of fear and manipulation. "Come!" Didi reached out and pulled Isabel to get up. As if it were a lifeless doll, Isabel was carried away. But deep down, a small spark of resistance was beginning to shine. It was still weak, but it existed. As they returned to the hall, all the eyes turned to them. The weight of the whispers and the eyes of penalty was suffocating. Donna Maria, who was in the center of the hall, smiled discreetly when she saw Isabel return, obedient next to her son. For her, that was the natural order of things, but not everyone saw things like that. Miguel, the young waiter, kept watching from afar. The squeeze on his chest grew every second. He knew Isabel needed help, and he was beginning to think of a way of acting. The party followed, but the atmosphere had changed. The laughter now sounded forced. Didi, as usual, talked and smiled at the guests, as if nothing had happened. Beside him, Isabel remained silent, a pale shadow next to a man who controlled her in every detail. From afar, Anna watched the scene with her heart in pieces. She knew she couldn't allow it to continue. Anna looked at Miguel. His gaze, full of despair, said everything without words were necessary. "Can I help something?" he whispered him. "Do you know any way no one notices?" Anna asked urgently. "Yes, there is a way out of the back, near the kitchen. But we need to be fast. If they see us, everything can go wrong." Anna took a deep breath, feeling the weight of that decision. Right. I just need a right time. The next morning, the mansion was silent. The sun entered the large windows, but the light seemed not to warm the cold mood that reigned inside the house. Isabel was sitting in her room, the look lost in the window. The night before had been long. She didn't sleep. Each time he closed his eyes, Diddy's words echoed in his mind. The silence was deafening. The door opened gently, and Anna entered, carrying a small bag. Isabel called Anna, with a soft voice. As soon as she saw her friend, Isabel collapsed in tears. She got up and hugged Anna tightly, as if that was the only link that kept her whole. I can't take it anymore, whispered Isabel. Anna held Isabel, running her hand on her hair to calm her down. It will be all right, Isabel. I am here. Let's get out of this. The tears would run silently down Isabel's face. I don't know what to do, she muttered, feeling lost. Anna, kneeling next to her friend, gently caressed her hair, but her voice was firm as never before. Isabel, you no longer need to endure it. The time has come to get up for itself. Você merece respeito, não ser tratada como objeto. Isabel olhou para Ana com os olhos cheios de dor. Mas se eu fizer isso, Didi vai se vingar. E a mãe dele, Dona Maria, nunca me deixará em paz. A voz trêmula de Isabel carregava todo o peso do medo que a aprisionava. Ana apertou a mão dela com mais força, seu olhar decidido como se quisesse passar toda a coragem que Isabel precisava naquele momento. E você acha que consegue viver assim pelo resto da sua vida? Ana perguntou, olhando diretamente nos olhos da amiga. Cada vez que você sofre uma humilhação, perde uma parte de si mesma. Você precisa recuperar sua vida, Isabel. E você não está sozinha. Eu estarei aqui. As palavras de Ana penetraram o coração de Isabel como uma faísca acendendo em meio à escuridão. Ela sabia que a amiga estava certa, mas o medo ainda pairava como uma sombra em sua mente. O silêncio no quarto foi interrompido quando a porta se abriu novamente. Era Miguel. O jovem garçom da festa da noite anterior entrou hesitante, mas seu olhar estava resoluto. Me perdoem por aparecer assim, disse Miguel, olhando diretamente para Isabel. Mas eu não posso ficar parado vendo você passar por isso. Isabel ficou surpresa. Miguel, ela não esperava que alguém como ele se importasse com sua situação. Você não me deve nada, Miguel continuou. Mas eu não posso me calar. Você não merece viver assim. Eu conheço algumas pessoas que podem ajudá-la a sair daqui em segurança. Ana olhou para Miguel e nos olhos dela brilhou um lampejo de esperança. Está vendo, Isabel? Disse Ana, virando-se para a amiga. This is your chance. He's right. Nós não podemos deixar Didi e Dona Maria continuarem controlando sua vida. Isabel olhou para Miguel e depois para Ana. Algo dentro dela queria acreditar, mas o medo a impedia de dar o primeiro passo. Antes que Isabel pudesse dizer qualquer coisa, uma voz fria ecoou da porta. Que cena patética! Didi entrou no quarto, seus olhos cheios de raiva. Atrás dele, Dona Maria o acompanhava com uma expressão rígida, mas sem emoção. Que piada! Didi se aproximou de Isabel lentamente, como um predador. Você realmente acha que pode ir a algum lugar sem a minha permissão? Isabel tremeu, mas Ana rapidamente se colocou entre ela e Didi. Didi, você não pode forçar Isabel a viver uma vida que ela não quer, disse Ana, encarando-o sem medo. Ela tem o direito de ir embora. Didi riu, mas o som era frio, sem nenhuma pitada de humor. Você acha que palavras bonitas vão mudar alguma coisa, Ana? Isabel é minha esposa. Ela me pertence. Ninguém, nem mesmo você, pode mudar isso. Miguel deu um passo à frente, colocando-se ao lado de Ana. Sua voz era tranquila, mas cheia de firmeza. Senhor Didi, se o senhor realmente ama Isabel, deveria deixá-la livre, em vez de mantê-la em um casamento que mais parece uma prisão. Didi virou a cabeça lentamente em direção a Miguel, e seu rosto se contorceu em fúria. Você é apenas um garçom, não tem o direito de se intrometer nos meus assuntos. Miguel não recuou. Talvez eu seja apenas um garçom, mas sou um ser humano e não vou ignorar uma injustiça. Dona Maria interrompeu a discussão com a voz cortante. Didi, não perca tempo com gente insignificante. Vamos resolver isso imediatamente. Os olhos de Isabel correram da sogra ao marido e ela se sentiu encurralada. Mas desta vez algo dentro dela mudou. Ela olhou para Ana, para Miguel, e percebeu que não estava completamente sozinha. Respirando fundo, Isabel se levantou. Sua voz era baixa, mas firme. Didi, eu já suportei o suficiente. Não vou ficar aqui nem mais um minuto. Didi parou e incredulou. What did you say? Ele gritou com os olhos faiscando. Isabel olhou diretamente para ele, sentindo cada palavra sair com força. Eu vou embora, e você não pode me impedir. A Nazório, orgulhosa de ver Isabel finalmente se levantando por si mesma. Miguel a observou com respeito. Didi tentou dar um passo à frente, mas Isabel não recuou. Você pode tentar o que quiser, Didi, disse Isabel, a voz repleta de coragem. Mas eu não vou mais deixar você controlar minha vida. Dona Maria interveio. Isabel, você está cometendo um grande erro. Mas Isabel não a ouviu. Pela primeira vez em meses, Isabel sentiu que tinha controle sobre seu próprio destino. O ambiente no quarto parecia congelado após a declaração firme de Isabel. Nem Didi, nem Dona Maria conseguiam acreditar no que acabaram de ouvir. A mulher que sempre consideraram fraca, incapaz de resistir, agora estava se impondo contra eles. Didi deu um passo à frente, os olhos cheios de raiva, e falou entre dentes. Isabel, você está delirando. Acha mesmo que pode ir embora sem a minha permissão? Mas Isabel não recuou. Ela respirou fundo, os olhos fixos e firmes. Eu não sou sua propriedade, Didi. Eu já suportei o suficiente. Você pode ficar com sua raiva e suas ameaças, mas não tem mais poder sobre mim. Dona Maria se adiantou, a voz afiada como uma lâmina. Pense bem, Isabel, você está destruindo esta família. A nossa honra não pode ser manchada por suas ações impensadas. Isabel virou-se para a sogra. Pela primeira vez, sustentou o olhar duro de Dona Maria, sem baixar a cabeça. Com honra, Isabel sorriu com amargura, lágrimas escorrendo de seus olhos. Que honra é essa, senhora? A honra de deixar seu filho me tratar como uma prisioneira? A honra de assistir a tudo isso e ainda apoiar a violência? Por um breve momento, Dona Maria não soube o que responder, mas logo retomou sua expressão de frieza e falou com desdém. Você fala assim porque não entende o significado de sacrifício. Se a esposa a significar, saiba obedece. Ana, que observava a cena de perto, não conseguiu se conter. Obedece, Dona Maria? Em que século a senhora acha que está? Retrocou Ana com o olhar ardendo de indignação. Ninguém tem o direito de obrigar uma mulher a viver assim. Isabel tem o direito de decidir sobre a própria vida. Didi levantou a mão, como se quisesse encerrar a discussão. Ele se virou para Isabel, suavizando o tom de voz. Isabel, eu não quero brigar. Podemos sentar e conversar. Mas eu não posso deixar você ir embora. Eu não posso perder você. As palavras de Didi pareciam carregadas de sinceridade, mas Isabel enxergava através da falsidade escondida nelas. She shook her head. Sua voz era calma, mas cortante. Se você realmente não quisesse me perder, Didi, não teria me feito viver com medo todos os dias. Miguel, que permanecia em um canto do quarto, assistia à cena em silêncio. Ele sabia que não era seu lugar interferir, mas ao ver o olhar decidido de Isabel, não conseguiu se calar. A senhora Isabel está certa, disse Miguel, com a voz firme. Se o senhor realmente a ama, deveria deixá-la livre. Uma mulher não é algo que o senhor possa possuir ou controlar. Didi girou nos calcanhares, os olhos cheios de raiva. This is not your account. Mas Miguel não recuou. Ele deu um passo à frente, a voz serena, porém inabalável. Eu sei que sou apenas um garçom, mas sou um ser humano. E não posso assistir a tudo isso de braços cruzados enquanto uma mulher é tratada assim. As palavras de Miguel tocaram fundo no coração de Isabel. Ela olhou, os olhos transbordando gratidão. Quando se virou para Didi novamente, o medo havia desaparecido de seu rosto. Eu tomei uma decisão. Didi, disse Isabel com firmeza. Vou embora, e você não pode me impedir. Ana se aproximou segurando a mão de Isabel, como se quisesse mostrar que ela não estava sozinha. Vamos, Isabel, não deixe que eles façam você mudar de ideia. Didi, furioso, avançou em direção a Isabel. Se você sair por aquela porta, Isabel, nunca mais volte. Você não terá mais nada. Isabel ergueu o queixo, os olhos brilhando com determinação. Eu não preciso de nada vindo de você, Didi. Só quero a minha liberdade de volta. Dona Maria, mesmo mantendo a frieza, não conseguia esconder o brilho de fúria em seus olhos. Ela se aproximou de Didi, sussurrando em tom baixo. Não a deixe ir. Você vai se arrepender. Mas desta vez nada poderia impedir Isabel. Ela seguiu em direção à porta, com Ana ao seu lado, enquanto Didi e Dona Maria ficavam para trás, atônitos. Miguel as conduziu rapidamente pelos corredores da mansão, através de um caminho discreto que ele havia preparado. Quando finalmente saíram, o ar fresco da manhã envolveu Isabel, trazendo um alívio quase tangível. Pela primeira vez, ela sentiu o peso em seu peito começar a se dissipar. Era como se Isabel tivesse se libertado de uma prisão invisível. Miguel a observava de perto, seu olhar carregado de respeito e encorajamento. Senhor Isabel, você fez a coisa certa. Nunca olhe para trás. Isabel olhou para Miguel, um pequeno sorriso surgindo em meio às lágrimas que ainda escorriam por seu rosto. Obrigada, Miguel. Você me deu a coragem que eu nem sabia que tinha. Ana abraçou Isabel com força, sua voz suave, mas cheia de orgulho. Você conseguiu, Isabel. Este é apenas o primeiro passo, mas sei que você vai superar tudo. As três figuras seguiram juntas, saindo pela propriedade sob a luz radiante do sol da manhã. Cada raio iluminava o caminho à frente de Isabel. Ela sabia que o trajeto não seria fácil, mas havia reconquistado algo que pensava ter perdido para sempre. Freedom. Ao chegarem ao carro de Miguel, ele hesitou por um instante antes de falar. Senhor Isabel, eu preciso voltar à mansão e continuar meu trabalho. Mas se precisar de qualquer coisa, por favor, me avise. Miguel estendeu um pequeno pedaço de papel com seu número de telefone. Isabel o recebeu, segurando o papel com as mãos tremendo levemente. Obrigada, Miguel. Você fez mais por mim do que eu jamais poderia esperar. Miguel assentiu, esboçando um leve sorriso, antes de se virar e retornar à mansão. Ele sabia que o caminho de Isabel, a partir dali, seria cheio de obstáculos, mas acreditava que ela estava finalmente pronta para enfrentar o que viesse. Ana ajudou Isabel a entrar no carro e deu partida. O trajeto foi silencioso. Nenhuma palavra foi dita, mas o peso que antes pairava sobre Isabel havia se dissipado. Enquanto olhava pela janela, vendo as árvores passarem rapidamente, Isabel sentiu algo novo brotar dentro dela. Hope. Quando o carro finalmente parou em frente ao pequeno apartamento de Ana, Isabel virou-se para a amiga, seus olhos cheios de gratidão. Dwarf. Eu não sei como agradecer. Se não fosse por você, eu nunca teria conseguido sair de lá. Ana sorriu gentilmente, sua voz acolhedora. Você não precisa me agradecer, Isabel. O mais importante é que você teve coragem. Eu só estava aqui para te apoiar. As duas entraram no apartamento. Ana preparou uma xícara de chá quente e colocou diante de Isabel. Agora você precisa descansar. O resto a gente resolve depois, disse Ana, com um olhar carinhoso. Isabel assentiu, mas sua mente estava inquieta. O que ela faria a seguir? Como sobreviveria sem depender de Didi? E o que sua família diria ao descobrir que o casamento havia acabado? Naquela noite, Ana sentou-se ao lado de Isabel. Juntas começaram a planejar os próximos passos. Ana sugeriu que Isabel procurasse um centro de apoio para mulheres. Lá, ela poderia receber orientação legal e proteção. Mas com o apoio de Ana, concordou. Na manhã seguinte, Ana a levou ao centro. Era um lugar pequeno, mas acolhedor, com paredes decoradas com pinturas vibrantes. O coração de Isabel batia acelerado ao entrar, mas ao ser recebida com sorrisos calorosos pela equipe local, ela começou a se sentir mais tranquila. Uma mulher de meia-idade, com cabelos grisalhos e uma postura gentil, se apresentou. Sou Clara, a coordenadora do centro. How can I help her? Elas se dirigiram a uma sala reservada, onde Clara ouviu atentamente a história de Isabel. Com um olhar firme e reconfortante, Clara respondeu. Senhor Isabel, sei que sua decisão não foi fácil, mas acredite, você fez o que precisava ser feito. Isabel abaixou a cabeça, as lágrimas escorrendo silenciosamente. Eu demorei muito para perceber isso, mas agora não sei como recomeçar. Clara segurou a mão de Isabel com delicadeza. Recomeçar nunca é fácil, mas é necessário. Aqui, vamos ajudá-la em cada passo. You are not alone. Clara explicou que Isabel teria suporte legal para garantir seus direitos. Além disso, o centro ofereceria ajuda para encontrar um novo lar, longe da influência de Didi e sua família. Na sala ao lado, Isabel conheceu outras mulheres que também haviam passado por situações semelhantes. Elas compartilharam suas histórias, e pela primeira vez, Isabel percebeu que não era a única. Clara a apresentou a uma advogada chamada Beatriz. Uma mulher confiante e perspicaz, Beatriz garantiu a Isabel: "Vamos entrar com o pedido de divórcio imediatamente. E não se preocupe, Isabel. Faremos o necessário para garantir sua segurança." Isabel olhou para Beatriz, sentindo que um novo capítulo estava prestes a começar. Beatriz continuava lidando com os trâmites legais, conduzindo o caso de Isabel com firmeza e cuidado. Enquanto isso, Isabel dava os primeiros passos rumo à sua independência. Ela se inscreveu em um curso rápido de design de interiores, uma paixão que havia deixado de lado desde que se casou com Didi. As aulas não eram apenas uma forma de aprendizado, mas um refúgio. Cada projeto ajudava Isabel a se desconectar do passado e trazia à tona a esperança de um futuro diferente. Pela primeira vez em muito tempo, ela se sentia motivada e alegre. Uma tarde, Isabel estava sentada no apartamento de Ana, concentrada em um projeto para as aulas. Seu telefone vibrou suavemente sobre a mesa. Era uma mensagem de Miguel. "Senhor Isabel, só queria saber como você está. I hope you are well. Se precisar de algo, estarei por aqui." Isabel sorriu enquanto lia. Ela digitou rapidamente: "Obrigada, Miguel. As coisas estão melhorando aos poucos. Sou muito grata por toda a sua ajuda." Ela colocou o telefone de lado e olhou novamente pela janela. A brisa suave da tarde trazia uma sensação de leveza. O passado doloroso ainda fazia parte de sua história. Mas dentro de Isabel, uma nova força começava a florescer. Ela sabia que sua jornada estava apenas começando, mas desta vez se sentia preparada para encarar o futuro. Isabel havia redescoberto algo essencial: o poder de escolha. A história de Isabel nos lembra que ninguém merece viver sob controle ou abuso. Quando decidiu se levantar e lutar contra a injustiça, Isabel não apenas recuperou sua liberdade, mas também reconstruiu sua autoestima. Essa trajetória mostra que, por mais difíceis que sejam os desafios, a mudança começa de dentro para fora. Além disso, Ana e Miguel demonstraram o quanto o apoio de amigos e aliados pode ser transformador. A empatia e a solidariedade de pessoas próximas podem fazer toda a diferença na vida de alguém que enfrenta diversidades. Se essa história te tocou, não se esqueça de deixar seu like e se inscrever no canal. Seu apoio nos inspira a continuar trazendo narrativas emocionantes e transformadoras. Estamos muito agradecidos por tê-lo aqui conosco. See you soon.